So if I step back, are you following me? Good stuff. Love my little handy cameraman. See if we can get a little bit closer, but not too close. Don't want to go for an impromptu swim. So I've just parked up at a location that I've actually been to before years ago, back when I was in school, and it's an absolutely enormous cave. So last time I was here, we went caving, and I would not do that again. Absolutely not. This is quite a popular location in South Wales. It's just below the Brecon Beacons. And apparently this is the largest cave entrance in Wales, and I think this cave system has the most entrances, which is 15, I think. This isn't why I'm here. This area is known as waterfall country, so I'm actually going to go on a hike and try and get some long exposures of waterfalls today, and then we'll have a bit of a chat about persistency and consistency in your photography, especially when you're starting out. But yeah, I mean, the car park is literally up here. So you park on top of this cave entrance, which is just mad. It's quite calm at the moment, but apparently there's quite a few dangerous sections here in the water. I think it's called the Resurgence Pool. Essentially, from what I was reading, it sounds like a siphon, which is basically a hole that you go in and you don't come back out of. So I won't be going too close. There's a danger sign just over there. What I'm going to try and do is just get a little bit further over to the left. Okay, I've just come down the path a little bit, so you've got the cave here and then this pathway here. I'm probably not going to go any further just because there's nobody else down here and I don't want to go any further. You can just see in the corner over here there's a little danger no entry sign. But anyway, so I've set the camera up. So we're down here and I don't know if it's going to focus, but essentially I'm just trying to capture this part of the stream here going in. I've framed it so that the sign over there isn't in frame because it's quite ugly. I might reframe it so it is in frame and then just do a bit of a remove brush to get rid of it afterwards. It's a shame that this rock in the middle, this one here, is just quite flat and boring. All the ones on the right over this side have got loads of really nice moss like covering them. Got the camera here and we're at f6.3 and we're at a 5-second shutter speed. I'm in manual mode just to compensate for everything. So I'm just gonna, I've also set this so it's a 2-second timer, so I can press the shutter, let the camera settle for 2 seconds, and then it'll take the picture so there's no vibrations from my hand. And I'm just gonna double check what that looks like. Well, that's not bad actually. It really, this water is crystal clear. So I definitely need to come back here with a CPL filter just to get rid of that extra bit of glare, but it is still very, very clear. And I'll be very careful, because I don't want to get too close to the edge, although that probably is okay. The problem here is there's a lot of like foliage, not foliage, there's a lot of dead branches just everywhere, which isn't ideal. So there we go, I think that'll be good. I'm trying to get quite low. I want to get that sense of scale. You know, this cave entrance is absolutely enormous, and I want the photo to reflect that as well. So I'm getting quite low, and then after I've got a couple of shots here, I might get a vertical orientation one. The problem is this tree here, it's got no leaves or anything on it. It's just ugly, really ugly. The bottom of it is nice, covered in moss. And all of the rocks and where you're sat as well has got loads of moss, which is just absolutely stunning. And the colours in the water as well, because there's these like green hues to some of the rocks, and then there's a lot of red. So the colours are lovely. It's just there's obviously been a lot of rainfall recently, and yeah, there's just loads of dead branches and logs and things in the water, which isn't ideal. This water is stunning though, like really nice. That's good. I like that. I like that a lot. I don't normally do long exposures. I quite like to freeze the action in water. If you're on the coast, then you want to see these big crashing waves hitting rocks and things like that. I think here though, it's quite a misty day. Not so much down here, but in the drive-in it was really misty. but it's quite an ethereal place to be. I mean, it's very intimidating. It's a big black hole in front of me, like it is pitch black. But as I said earlier, you've got all the really nice colours in the stream going in. You've got greens and reds. You've got really nice moss all up the side, leading into quite an intimidating, but I suppose mysterious subject, this cave. So I thought a long exposure, it sort of adds to that ethereal look, because it makes everything a little bit softer, which is quite nice. I am very happy with those results. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to try and get a couple of handheld shots. I still have the ND filter on, but I'm going to tone it down a little bit, which is handy because it's variable. So if I step back, are you following me? Good stuff. Love my little handy cameraman. What I wanted to talk about today is quite poignant for me. Basically, it's about being persistent and being consistent with your photography. And what I mean by it's quite poignant for me is I've just started this YouTube channel, so I know I have to be very persistent with it and keep consistently getting decent quality content out, and maybe not expecting huge results straight away. And that's not necessarily what I'm doing it for. I'm doing it because I enjoy being out and about. Filming is part of my day job. Completely different setup, like proper cameras, lighting, all that sort of stuff, rather than this run and gun sort of thing that I'm doing at the moment. But when I started out shooting back in 2019, I had a few friends who were photographers. You know, they'd done weddings, things like that. They'd done more commercial work. I ended up working with a lot of photographers through my job. I worked in quite a few comms teams, so you come into contact with professional photographers all the time. And I remember when I started out that I was really happy with some of the photos I got, but a lot of what I got, I just thought it's not very good. And you know, I just started out. It's all about practice and, like I said, being persistent. And that can be really hard nowadays with social media and YouTube, to be fair. But if we focus in on sort of photo-based social media like Instagram, you know, people are putting their best work out, and these are photographers who've been doing it 5, 10, 15, 20 years. So what you're seeing is their absolute best work. They've curated it so that you see what they want you to see. Photography is if you keep it up throughout your life, it is a lifelong journey, you know. And that sounds really cheesy, but at the end of the day, you're always going to be learning, you're always going to be evolving as well. You see a lot of people out there talking about like their photography style, what they enjoy photographing and all of that sort of stuff. And it can make you feel like you have to sort of silo yourself into one genre of photography. So I like landscape photography. I have done a fair bit of wildlife photography. Not as much as like actual wildlife photographers, but I did enjoy going out, sitting in a hide for a few hours and getting some photos of birds. It can be really difficult to keep that motivation to keep going, especially when you see all of these people on Instagram who look like they're high flying. You know, they go into these amazing locations. Just keep checking behind me so that nobody's walking behind me and sees someone recording themselves as they go. Oh, that's a horrible noise. One good thing to do when you're starting out in photography is keep track of what you've shot. You know, what you've shot, where you've shot it, how you've shot it. And the easiest way to do that is obviously have it all uploaded into a photo library. So I use Google Photos primarily, but then I also back up my photos elsewhere because that's also good practice just in case something goes wrong. But it means that I can quickly go back to when I started and look at the photos that I took. And I'll be very honest with you, there's still some photos there that I really like, and I'd be happy if I took them now. There's one shot that I got, it's very abstract, of a sunset, and you know, it's before I even really understood manual controls and things like that. It was sort of a fluke that I managed to get it, but it was a lovely shot and one of my favourite sunrises to date, and that was back in 2020, I think. So yeah, being able to keep tabs on the work that you've done is really, really useful, because you can see where you can improve, and if there's things that you like about certain photos, you can replicate it and you can learn from it, which is really useful. So a really good piece of advice if you are starting out in your journey is just look back at what you've done. I'm sure there'll be stuff that you'll be happy that you've taken. There'll probably be quite a few photos that you're like, oh, that's not very good, I could have done this better. That's the point that you can learn from. If you can look at a photo and think, oh, maybe I would have
taken that from a different angle, or I'd have used a different shutter speed or a different aperture. Maybe I'd have bracketed or stacked the photo. You know, there's all these different ways that you can learn from the photos that you've taken as well, which is really useful. So yeah, keep tabs on where you've come from is the bit of advice I would say. Another good tip when you're just starting out is try not to get too bogged down in kit. It can be really challenging when you see photographers that you take inspiration from, or just general people on social media, or even people you know who have really nice expensive camera equipment, and you feel, you know, if you've got an older model of a camera or a budget camera, that you might feel a bit inadequate. And I know, speaking from experience, it's really difficult to sort of overcome those feelings, but at the end of the day, if you're enjoying when you go out and shoot and you're happy with the photos that you get at the time, I'm not saying you can't find ways to improve, because that's the whole point of a photography journey, is that you will improve. But at the time of shooting, if you're happy with those photos, then yeah, equipment is one of those things that's not always the most important point. So as a bit of context in that statement, not to get bogged down in kit, when I started shooting, I had a second-hand camera from my dad. I was very lucky in that sense. It was a Canon EOS M3. There were a lot of things that I really liked about that camera. It was really small, which is what got me into taking it out hiking, so it really suited me in that sense. But I had a 15 to 58mm lens, I think, and that was it. And I remember going out with some of my friends who had proper chunky DSLRs. You know, they'd done wedding photography and things like that. And I remember feeling really like, oh, my camera's tiny. Like, I know it's capable and I know I get good results with it, but it just doesn't feel professional. So I did end up getting new lenses, and then I ended up getting my G9 a few years later. But I only bought the G9 after I'd realised what I wanted to shoot and what I needed from a camera. So the big thing for me was actually weather sealing. The M3 did not have weather sealing, and it felt very dainty. It was quite an early mirrorless camera, and it felt fairly fragile, whereas the G9 that I've got on me at the moment is a big boy in terms of mirrorless cameras, or mirrorless micro four thirds cameras at least. Okay, we are coming down to the river level now, which is good, or mostly the river level. I can see some waterfalls off to my left, a bit of a stream off to the right, so we'll have a look at that first. Yeah, that was a lot of descent. I am hoping there's another way around. Yeah, it looks like there's a path going up that way, so I can follow that in a minute. Well, these rock features are lovely. See if we can get a little bit closer, but not too close. Don't want to go for an impromptu swim. There you go, so river's coming from up there. You can see some people here. If I just pan it round, it creates this amazing, like, gorge with crystal clear water. That's stunning. I might just try and get some photos here, to be honest. I did get a few pictures down by that part of the waterfall, but there were so many people there and they just kept coming down, so I didn't record. I think some of the pictures I got were quite nice actually though. I was quite happy with those. It'd be good to come here maybe on a weekday when there's less people, because there's hordes of people everywhere. But it's natural beauty and people are entitled to come and visit, so I can't blame them for wanting to come. It is stunning. But yeah, not a lot of recording down here, I don't think. So there are these boardwalks on certain sections, I'm assuming to protect the ground, because it's very muddy, as you can see down here. But God, they're lethal, they're so slippery. They've got like grip tape strips up the middle of them, but they're obviously very worn down and covered in mud. So yeah, they're quite dodgy really. Okay, so I'm at another set of smaller waterfalls. They're sort of like 2 or 3 in a layer. I'll spin you around quick, and hopefully you can see that composition. You can see there's some people over this side, which isn't ideal. There's some really interesting streaks in the water though, which is quite nice. So I'm gonna You can probably tell by how quiet it is here that moved quite far away from the waterfalls now. They're well back down in the valley. There was just too many people, way too many people for me. My own fault, should have come here earlier or in the week, not on Sunday. But I think I got a couple of good shots anyway. Good for a location scout as well. I mean, these are fairly popular waterfalls, so they've been photographed time and time again. But it's always nice to come out and try something a little bit different and practice. You know, as I said, I don't tend to do long exposures very often, so that's quite fun getting to do that. And that does come back around to my point of when you're starting out, you need to be persistent, not get beat down by all of these things. You need to try stuff. It's about trying new things, accepting that they might not always work, and just moving on. You know, at the end of the day, photography for a lot of us is a hobby. Just try stuff. Just, you know, if you think you might be interested in it, just give it a go. Try your best at the start to not spend money on it. It can be really difficult to try new things, and you sort of fall into the forum trap where people are saying, oh, you should get this lens, or oh, you should get that tripod, or oh, you need this bit of kit to do this. And a lot of the time you don't. Just a bit of ingenuity and creativity can help you along with a lot of things. Check out this view. Stunning. Back in the car now. Made myself a little double espresso, definitely needed. I was out a bit longer than I thought I was going to be. The sort of last third of the walk it's a green path on the OS map, and there were signposts, and I'll try and pop up a picture of one of them. It was just boggy, and you know, you were basically following what looked like animal trails rather than like people trails. It's a good location. I just need to come here out of the popular times, really, because it was just too busy. There were too many people in the way. But the waterfalls themselves were nice. I did get some good long exposures, and hopefully I made sense about what I was actually intending to talk about, which was being persistent with your photography when you're beginning, because it can be really easy to just let it slip and stop doing it. And if it's something that you're passionate about and you want to keep doing, it's just about overcoming those hurdles.